People ask me why I started Behind the Scanner many, many years ago, and honestly, the answer is pretty simple. It's because of all of you people. Yes, you people. The agents that play the game. You make it worthwhile. It's why everybody that I ask about what their favorite part of the game is, they all say it's the community, it's the people. And this is just a way that I can give back, highlight people, share stories. Some of them are going to be similar. It's because Ingress is an enabler for experiences, and a lot of people are sharing the same experiences. And so I wanted to share these experiences that people are having with you. Took a lot of time off. Our last episode was on July 21st, 2016. Our guests were JoJo Stratton and Gimpster, Max Meyer III. So, in that time, there's been a lot of things happening. As most people know, I now work for Niantic. This will not be a Niantic show. This is still going to be Behind the Scanner, by the players, for the players. I'll probably sprinkle some things in here you'll want to watch. But by and large, it's going to be players sharing their experiences, sharing their stories, kind of like we did before. Only it's going to be shorter, compressed videos. It's not going to be live. It's not going to be an hour long. It's probably going to be one agent per show to keep sort of the format condensed a little bit, so you don't have to sit here for an hour and watch the whole thing. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, if you want to appear on the show, just hit me up. Send me a Telegram message. I'm at Red Solo Cup. Red Solo Cup. And you can also hit me up on Hangouts as well, or send me a Google Plus message. And so with that, we're back. And now for our first guest.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm Agent MM207A, and you are watching Behind the Scanner.
Your access level has recently increased. Excellent. Go! Incoming message.
So what do I have to do to get you to come to San Francisco so I can level you up to L16?
I go to San Francisco quite a lot, actually. The problem is I never have time to play when I'm there. So
I know, and every time you've come, I've missed you. I feel terrible.
Welcome to the show, Sarah. For everybody who's watching at home, why don't you give them a little introductions to who you are, your level, where you play, that sort of thing?
Sure. My name is Sarah. I'm Agent MM207A. I'm an L16 who plays in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I am a community leader and a POC for the upcoming Q4 San Francisco Anomaly.
Oh, interesting. There's an anomaly. Yeah. How is the preparation coming for that?
The preparation's coming great. We've been very active since the moment the announcement was made in Navarro. Luckily, only one of the two POCs were in Navarro, so I was able to kind of take a jump on it. And we're ready, willing, and eager to share our lovely city with the global Ingress community.
Speaking of lovely city, though, I think you guys have some of the most craziest weather in the country. Our headquarters is out there, so I travel out there a lot. And it's like one day it can be 50 degrees in the morning, 80 degrees in the afternoon, raining, foggy, the whole 9 yards. And I think you guys set a record for like 105, 106 degrees just a few days ago. How the hell do you play?
Yeah. So when you live in the Bay Area, you become used to our microclimates. I think we have about 30 of them. I personally live in the East Bay, and at any point in time, I can be 10 to 15 degrees warmer than San Francisco. So you learn to dress in layers. You wear lots of sweaters, jackets, anything you can kind of peel off in the morning. And then as the day progresses, you get nice and warm and we break out the tank tops. And then once the sun goes down, we start putting everything back on to stay comfortable. So you have a lot of places to stash your gear, many places to put batteries, snacks, bottles of water, anything you might need. And you also learn to wear a lot of sunscreen.
You've been playing for a while. You are a famous operator. You've operated for how many events, do you think?
I started with being on the ground in Darcana and Santa Cruz, and I kind of took off operating after that. So I'm in the double digits for anomaly events at this point.
Nice. So having that sort of, high level view of things that are going on the ground, especially during anomalies, do you have any thoughts, feedbacks of the current format?
Yeah, so I thought the current format was kind of an interesting change. I know that the player base really loved hybrid anomalies because they were really fast moving and they had a lot of action and people kind of never got a break. on the flip side, there were people who complained because they'd run out of gear. They'd run through all the gear they had. So I thought it was kind of a nice change. There were a couple of tweaks I would have liked to have seen. The shard part of the game didn't have nearly enough shards. It seemed like a lot of sites cleared all the shards out in the first 20 minutes of the anomaly, which you would expect. If you had a team that knew what they were doing, they're going to try to move all those shards in the first, 2 to 3 jumps.
Sure.
And we saw that happen. So that left people with kind of a 40-minute block of like nothing to do. And there's nothing really strategic at that point if the board's been cleared. So I think that needs a little bit of tweaking, probably just maybe even more shards would be helpful, because then you dilute the amount of time you have. The cluster battle was great in a sense of it had a lot more volatiles than I've ever seen before, and the volatiles are really fun. And teams love being on a volatile. They like, the advantage of this portal is worth so much. It's that like Gollum, my precious thing going on. So that was really enjoyable. The 30-minute breaks I thought were hard. When I looked at the way the rules were set up, I could tell that you guys were trying to negate the you can just win with mass attendance numbers. But the 30-minute breaks would let those larger teams catch up with the smaller teams. So I thought that kind of undid some of the good work Niantic was trying to do with making the anomalies a much more balanced experience. So I would love to see those shortened down. I also am just a person who really enjoys the strategic side of things. So I think that when you have a shorter period of time to move teams from point A to point B, it requires you to be really inventive. And I like seeing teams being rewarded for being inventive, and I like seeing them being rewarded for having to make that tough decision of, do we go after the shard that's in the far corner, or do we move on to the next phase? And you really kind of have to make a decision with what's going to benefit your team the best. And so I think having those longer breaks just kind of allowed people to get a little fat, dumb, and happy about things. So, and the fielding component slowed down the gameplay a lot. That was a hard one for me. I love fielding. Fielding's ingrained in my soul. California does it a lot. So I was really excited about it. And it kind of didn't play out the way I wanted to see it play out. It became something where if you were outnumbered by a huge margin, your team really had no chance. You can only hold an anchor for so long when you're outnumbered 6-1 on the anchor. So that's something that I've heard from both sides. So again, I think it just needs to be tweaked.
In talking to the game masters and the other folks, I think I know that there's definitely going to be some tweaks coming. I think for the shards, you're not the only person that's brought that up. I saw it in Macau where, they captured almost everything in like the first 15, 20 minutes. So one of the things that, I can advocate for are multiple sets of shards. So maybe we do like 2 phases of shards, where the board resets between the two. We can also do faction specific shards. So you've got, your specific shards you have to move it. So in that case, that might help out, the imbalance in numbers, because you can only, score a maximum fixed amount, and then the other team has the same. I don't know. I'm just riffing off the top of my head here. And with regards to fielding, maybe the 30 minutes is a bit too long. So maybe we can shorten that down to 15 minutes, like the cluster battle or something like that. And, you won't have to hold the anchors as long as possible, or one, if you're the underdog, one blocking link then won't sort of destroy your plans, and you have to go chase it at the last minute because you don't have enough folks. So I think in general, the 3 phases is good. Interesting to hear your feedback about the 30-minute break. There's definitely some tweaks that are going to be coming. They're not going to be coming for September. One thing that I definitely advocate for is not changing the rules midstream. Nobody likes to have the Calvin ball happen to, especially since we're looking at the calendar 2 weeks out, I think. So, but for Q4, there'll definitely be some tweaks. So if you had to sum the game up, like your experience and what you've gotten out of it, how do you describe it to people?
So that's a fun one for me, because I get asked about it a lot, usually because I'm out playing with my husband and my kids, and people think we're playing Pokemon. We're like, no. Pokemon is the little sister of this really amazing game that is augmented reality. And I usually explain it to people as it's a game that lets you go out and do things, in the sense of you physically have to be there to interact with it. But that most of the portals within the portal network are really interesting points of location that you would never necessarily travel to. I've lived in California for 16 years, and I have been to places in this state because of this game that I would never ordinarily go to. And I'm a backpacker and I'm a hiker, and these are camping sites that we just never would have thought to camp there, that we've gone there for whatever reason. And so you see the beauty of this country, you meet people that have similar interests as you do, and you can take these, for me, these great family adventures with your kids all over the state to do things for a game that is helping them learn more about the area that they live in too. So it really is a game that you get out as much as you want to put into it, and you can define your role based on what your interests are. So I'm not super into building. It's not interesting to me, but I will kayak to a portal. I will take a helicopter to a portal. I will go camping in the mountains for a week. That's stuff I really enjoy doing. And we found a way to build that into like family time, which is even better.
That's all very well said. There's two things I want to touch on, and that is, you said your husband plays. So who was the first to level 8?
I was the first to level 8. I beat him by about 3 hours because he had a meeting at work.
Nice. What about 16? Who was the first to 16?
I beat him by a month. I got really close and I couldn't wait. And so I called up Brandon Downey and had him and a few friends help me get to level 16 in one night. And I ended up finishing my level 16 on the largest res farm that was in the region that we had spent 3 months destroying. So it was very apropos.
Wow. That's good. So in getting to know you a little bit, you mentioned something previously off camera about your husband and flying in helicopters. So talk to us a little bit about that and, your story there.
Sure. So my husband was a private pilot for fixed wing before I met him. And he and I have always shared a love of flying. For him, it's his happy place. For me, I grew up with a dad who was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. And so and then went on to do reserves. So I grew up around helicopters, and I've been in Hueys and I've been in Cobras, and that was just a part of my childhood. We'd go to air shows, and he would go up in helicopters. So Ingress, of course, has some of these great unicorn portals that you can only really reach by air due to restrictions. And we have both gone up in a fixed wing. I personally flew over Point Bonita Lighthouse to capture it. He's flown over a couple of portals, and we had an opportunity to go in a helicopter, and he fell in love with it, which for me was this amazing moment because that's always been near and dear to my heart. And he now is taking helicopter lessons, which has created a very personal thing for me because that's what my dad did, and my dad is no longer with us. And my girls have been with us every time he goes up in his lessons. So they've been watching their daddy fly a helicopter. And it's become a really amazing bonding experience that I don't know would have happened had it not been for Ingress and the drive to go to the specific portal that doing it by helicopter was by far the smartest choice. So, wow. And he shoots GoPro videos when he goes. So we get to watch him fly and everything.
That's awesome. That's cool that it enabled this experience. That's one thing that I love about this game is that it doesn't matter where you came from, how much money you make, who you voted for, if you're it doesn't matter. It breaks down all these barriers, and it just enables these experiences to happen, which is fantastic. So that's really cool to see and hear that you've got, this connection to your dad with your husband now that was sort of enabled by the game. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Let's flip the script a little bit. Why don't I put myself in the hot seat? If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Sure. So my first question is going to come with the Schrödinger target that was in Poland. As you know, it created a lot of drama. It was a site that was hotly contested, so I think any little thing would have fallen under a microscope. But in addition to what happened in game, there was all of the moo after the fact with the multiple kind of different statements that came out with Niantic before they finally came to a final resolution. And I'm just wondering what Niantic is putting in place to protect the rest of the Q3 sites from something like that, and how they hope to handle the situation better within the communities.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for not lobbing a softball up and going straight to the gut. So appreciate that. So the Schrödinger portal. We have learned a lot about that in the time since Stretchin occurred, and we're definitely, I lied, we're actually going to be putting in some changes to the rules, not so much the rules, but how we spawn the targets in the future. So that should mitigate a lot of the problems that actually are the root cause of the Schrodinger portal. In addition to that, we're going to be allocating more resources to verify things. One of the problems that occurred with this particular instance is that if you were enlightened, it would appear as, green, maybe even blue. But if you're blue, it would appear as either green or blue too. But the point is that you didn't see two portals at a single time. You only saw the one portal in its one state. So we're going to allocate more people to, do more visual checks on things. Instead of just counting the number of targets, and yes, all the targets are accounted for, going in and doing a little bit more in depth on the actual targets, because we are going to give ourselves more time to put them out there and spawn them. We're also going to remove them from the play box for phase 1. That may have had something to do with it. If a portal was being played on, there's things that happen with the servers. So we're just going to sort of eliminate that. We have a lot of portals in our anomaly zones and in our phase zones. So we're just going to make sure that if it's a target portal, it's a target portal, and it most likely will not be used for phase 1. So that's the Schrodinger portal from maybe a technical level. From a community side of things, we do have this cross-faction group that we kind of go to for feedback and stuff to make sure that, our decisions are kind of right. They help with the shard game, and sort of we nickname them like the referee group, basically. And the communication process broke down. We did not communicate to them about what had happened and what we were going to do in our plans. And so that's our bad. Specifically, that's my bad, since I'm the community manager. So we are not going to not talk to them anymore. It wasn't done on purpose. It was just, things happened really fast, and it was just one of those things that was just kind of like out of sight, out of mind, and it should have happened, but it didn't break down the process. So we're going to make sure that process doesn't get skipped. We're also going to be expanding that group. We've got the Vanguard program that we unleashed last Friday, I think it was. So getting people involved with that, with the community, and having those sort of discussions and everything. So I think there's a lot of good came out of a very unfortunate situation. It was the one city where the one target and the one shard actually mattered, which really kind of sucks. But I think we're walking away with the ability to put on better events and with a stronger tie to the community, which is always a positive. So yeah, good question.
So while I'm on the hardball questions, before I give you the softball one, I'm curious to know if Niantic is going to put into effect some sort of weather protocol for anomalies. Given Macau had the typhoon, Houston is now scheduled to be 2 months after a major hurricane, which the city's recovering from great. And I know that there are currently discussions on what to do with said anomaly event, but it's been all over G+. So I'm kind of curious if you guys are now going to look at maybe not having sites in the hurricane zones, kind of at the height of hurricane season, or if you're going to look at a better way to kind of establish guidelines for how to handle when a city gets hit by some sort of natural disaster.
Yeah, that's another fantastic question. I don't know that we're going to have a specific weather protocol. What happened with Macau and what is happening with Houston, I think, is probably the best path forward, and that is we consult with the local POCs, the folks who are on the ground, the folks who are living it, the folks who are there. That doesn't necessarily mean that the group of people we talk to is going to be in agreement. There could be disagreements based off of the subjective nature of the situation. So one person may have it really bad, one person might be fine. And so one person maybe not want to have something happen, and the other one does. So regardless, though, we get all this feedback, we solicit all this feedback, we have lots and lots and lots of conversations, we have real-time chats established with all the POCs, and based off of that, we're going to make a determining factor on whether or not we should go forward with things. In the case of Macau, we talked with the POCs. They agreed to shrink the anomaly zone to a place that they had literally gone out and scouted and said that it was safe to play in. And I mean, that happened, that came out of the blue. Nobody was, really predicting that, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks out. In the case of Harvey, we knew that Harvey was going to be coming ashore someplace. But again, that's really hard. I mean, we would have to eliminate a whole swath of regions just for the what if scenarios, and
Yep.
they don't happen that often. Let's be honest. We unfortunately had two that happened pretty back to back. But it's not often that something gets impeded by a natural disaster, and it's also a great opportunity, to give back to those communities, to get a bunch of people that can, maybe turn a mission day into an OCF or something like that we might do to sort of, help the areas. So it's not just about being selfish and having this game and going out and playing, but also, we really want to give back to the communities as much as we can too. So that's a long way of saying I don't know that we would have sort of an overarching umbrella policy towards weather, but we do have a communication protocol and policy that we like to try to follow. And I think that's probably the best way to attack it, just due to the unpredictable nature of weather, quite frankly. I mean, storms can happen at any point, anytime, winds can change, fires in California, it might not be an issue one day, and then the next day, the whole valley's on fire. So, I think just making sure that we communicate openly and transparently is probably the best policy for us.
I love the idea of Operation Clearfields after events if there's a city that's affected. I think that the Ingress community as a whole has proven that they're very caring about their agents regardless of faction. And I think giving people the opportunity to come into an area and not only contribute with, let's face it, every anomaly costs you money. It's never free. There's hotels, there's airfare, there's food, all these things that go back into the community to help ensure that service workers keep their jobs. I think then to be able to open it up to agents to help with disaster recovery is such a great use of people who have flown into a city clearly because they love the city and they want to participate in what's going on, and to help the people that live there that are living through what they're going through right now be distracted for a period of time. That distraction can be life-saving in some ways. I think it can get really hard when you're trying to rebuild your home for 2 months and you're not there yet. So that makes me feel good. And while I'm on the subject of communities, I just want to quickly give you a shout out and thank you for advocating for the players. I know you have been the driving force behind the referee program that came up after we had some problems with global shards. And you've also worked really hard to ensure that spoofing has been dwindled down to a minimum at this point. We've had bot farms go under, which has been great. Players have a new kind of faith in the system that Niantic is listening, whether it be that really hard mountain portal that they spent 2 days hiking to that got spoofed on their way back down is being reset to the way it was before, or the simple part where they know that the person who spoofed them was then banned within a couple of hours. It's created a huge change in perception within the local communities and the broader gaming world of Ingress. And I'd love to encourage you guys to keep taking steps to show the players that you're listening and that you care, because it is a very personal game. And I think sometimes people lose sight of the part where that portal may not seem like a big deal, but to the person who owned it, it was everything. And to not have it legitimately taken out can be very disturbing to people.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Oh, you're gonna make me blush. That's okay. Stop it. Yeah. No. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I don't know how else to say that. I love what I do. I love being the advocate for the players. There's good days and bad days. There's fun things that happen and not so fun things that happen. But, this game is really personal to so many people on such a personal level. We've got Ingress babies. I officiated my second Ingress marriage. These things happen and the game is changing people's lives. Again, it's enabling all of these experiences. And so, being a player myself, coming from the community, I've been able to bring a different perspective to things than maybe they've had in the past at the level and closeness that I was involved in. And so, yeah, it's all about you guys. We wouldn't have a game without you guys, without the players, without the people, turning on the scanners, every single day, going after their Sojourner badge. It wouldn't be there. So, I know how personal the game can be to people. To hell, it got me this job. So, yeah, I plan on continuing to advocate for the player base and doing, what I believe is right, which sometimes might not be what the player base thinks is right, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree on things. So, yeah. What if you had to pick one, and I'm going to limit you to one, story, encounter, experience, something that really stands out in your mind, what is the one story that you tell people about, like, this is Ingress?
Oh God, that is so hard.
Oh, you have to pick one.
So I guess for me, like the one most amazing event, and it's completely personal, came last year. So I've been fielding since, I don't know, a couple of months after I started. I live in the Bay Area. We have Brandon here. We're big into fielding. And so I've kind of progressed up the ranks of operating and slowly but surely got trusted with bigger and bigger fields. And we came time to throw this field that one of our agents had dreamed up. They had farmed keys for everything. And it was an all-state field. So it covered all of California. It was anchored in the extreme northern part of the state. One of the towns was called Chester. I've never even been there. Like, I've literally never even been there, and I've driven up to Seattle many times because I have family there, out to Hawaii and down to Baja. So massive, massive field. We had agents at two of the three anchors, and I was the lead for it. So I was responsible for throwing it, and it ended up being a billion MU. It took the better part of 4 hours to throw because after the first 10 layers, we broke the game and we had to wait. We had to wait a couple hours to throw more. And then also it took a long time just for the teams to drive down these narrow mountain windy roads with no lights to throw. So I literally was on Intel for probably the better part of a day and a half because of all the prep work, making sure we had people in the right places. And then we were going to throw for checkpoint. We only got like 10 layers up for checkpoint, and then we couldn't throw anything else. So we had to wait until the game started working right again. And it lasted well over overnight. I think it lasted the better part of the day into the next day. And then when they started taking it down, it wasn't coming down correctly because the servers couldn't render dropping that much MU at a time.
Of course.
So yeah, I mean, it ghosted for a little while and then it finally cleared up. But it was one of those fields where, like 2 days before throw time, we switched anchors. Everything was constantly moving and it went up. And I just remember at the moment that it went up, celebrating, because it was the largest thing I had ever done. And, we're on the Zello and I'm listening to people who are standing on the edge of this cliff in the pitch black, screaming and celebrating. We made a ton of Onyx illuminators. And it was just that moment where we had people from our entire state. We had people in Mexico, all were together helping in these chats. And it was an incredible field.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. There's nothing quite like that feeling of throwing something big. I mean, I don't know what the biggest, I think I've only thrown like a couple million MU fields, so nothing on the order of billions, but yeah, there's nothing like getting that feeling of it all coming together with all those moving parts and just making it happen. So kudos to you. What did you guys give it a name? What was the operation called?
It was called the Baja Bajillions Field.
All right, that fits. Yes.
Yeah, it was quite nice.
Excellent. Having anomalies and pretty big anomalies in the San Francisco area, we had 13 Magnus there, the original one. We had and we've had a number in the area. Is the bar set high? Do you think you guys can live up to the expectations of what has happened in the past? Because I got to say, that original 13 Magnus was like the rock star of all anomalies. Everybody refers back to that one.
Yeah. So yeah, we've had a lot of large anomalies. The most recent one was Oakland Abaddon, which was a great event. We had a lot of fun. The Enlightened had a dominating win, which we were very proud of. So I think the bar is set high. We want to win by a bigger margin. We want to go out with style. We have specifically requested that Cupid's Span be included in the play box, because how can you not have Cupid's Span be included? It's the original shard target. It is the birthplace of Ingress in so many ways, along with the site of the ship Niantic, that you can't help but want to have a big site and have a high bar. We have people coming in from all over the globe to say that they were in San Francisco. So we want to make sure that we continue the tradition that the California Enlightened have. We've been dominating West Coast anomalies since I've been playing. And we are known for our abilities with shards and our fielding. So we will only continue that on a grander scale when it comes time for the anomaly. But we've done things like we have cable cars doing the Friday night farming so people can get uniques and have a drink without worrying about driving. You've got a beautiful venue overlooking the waterfront of the bay. You can see the bridges. It's just world class in so many different ways that you can't help but come here and have an amazing time.
Yeah, that's cool. You have shards and everything. And I can remember being there, and we were all kind of standing around Cupid's band. And I don't know if it was Brandon Downey or somebody who started yelling out, there's a blocker, somebody's got to take it down. And myself and one other person looked it down the Embarcadero, like a half mile, and then dropped the link, and then shards came in. It was quite wonderful. So yeah, they're good memories in San Francisco. Then we had the whole Jarvis coming back to life thing, the big circumstance and smoke and all that, and the after party was a lot of fun. So the bar is definitely set high, but starting off with a cable car drinking hacking unique tour doesn't sound like a bad way to kick it off. So maybe I'll try to get down to San Francisco and forego going to Hawaii or some other place.
You should. If you've never been to the city in the holiday season, it's amazing. They light up the buildings, the bridges are lit up. I mean, it's just a great place. The food is world class. The portal density is insane. I leveled up to 8 so quickly because of that portal density. And there's just a bunch of really amazing landmarks that you can add into an Ingress tour very easily, whether it be Fisherman's Wharf or Coit Tower. It's the middle of crab season, so you can get crab. The Bay Bridge, Treasure Island. I mean, there's just so many amazing sites here to see that play into this game.
Yeah. So. One site I have yet to go to is Alcatraz. Over the year and a half.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, of all the travel, every time I'm out to San Francisco, I don't know. I've never gotten out to Alcatraz, so I might have to put that on my to-do anomaly bucket list.
If you come, I will take you to Alcatraz.
All right, deal. I assume there's portals there, right?
There's lots of portals there. It's one of those sites that can make or break a field.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Tourist links to that, and sometimes it's not so fun.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Well, I'll take you up on that. Thank you for coming on our inaugural Behind the Scanner comeback show. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do it.
I'm excited to be here. I'm glad you're bringing Behind the Scanner back. I know it's something a lot of people really enjoy, so they'll be glad to see the videos showing back up again.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm looking forward to it. So, all right. Well, you have yourself a good Monday. I will talk to you.
You too.
Take care.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye, Andrew. Thanks.
Your access level has recently increased. Excellent.
Incoming message.
I'm drawing a blank. I need more Monster energy drinks.
Those will kill you.
Actually, it's not. It's the Starbucks double shot energy.
Oh, okay. Those are good for you. I love those.
Really? Are they? Okay. Because I suck them down like it's water.
They're not loaded with sugar like Rockstar and Monster are.
Really? I did not.
Mm-hmm. They have real coffee in them as opposed to just energy goo. So.
Good to know.
Talking to the queen of Starbucks. That's how I.
Energy goo just doesn't sound like it's healthy for you anyway. So.
No, it's not.